Greetings, it's Stacy Patrice here with day 6 of the Countdown to Clarity, and I am here today filming from my kitchen. I am in the process of making some vegan Hoppin' John with quinoa and collard greens, which I'm going to be in here quite some time. I just wanted to talk today about silence. Isn't that funny? I want to talk about silence. And the reason being is that silence is a new addition to my life, I would say, but it's a very welcomed addition to my life. I had never thought about the idea of going into silence and experiencing silence fast, if you will. And when I started my yoga journey, I said, one of the things that I definitely want to do is do another silence fast. I had done one very trendy like after I saw Eat, Pray, Love, and I knew that I needed to take a silence fast, and I saw that movie. It confirmed I needed to take a silence fast, so I took a silence fast. And it was funny because I didn't stop doing any of the things that I normally would do when I'm not being silent. So what I decided to do was I said, okay, I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to ride public transportation. I am going to, just be out in the world and see what it's like to be silent. And I wish I would have had a camera then to record it because it was quite hilarious to see different people's reactions. So it was really interesting to go to work, go shopping, be on public transit in Chicago, and come all the way home and spend an entire day saying absolutely nothing. So how do you start a silence fast? Well, first of all, let's talk about why you might want to start a silence fast, why it might be necessary to do. And a silence fast is usually something that you go into. It may feel voluntary, but it's usually involuntary. It's usually a recognition that something needs to shut off in order for other things to turn on. So when I did my silence fast, what I was looking for at that time was to just reduce some frustration. I had a lot of frustration from dealing with the people that I was working for and dealing with myself in the middle of this because it wasn't fully what I wanted to be doing. I enjoyed my time. I learned a lot. I was paid for what I was doing. But I really wanted to be where I am now, which is to be working fully for myself and creating things for people to empower themselves and not be in a situation of disempowerment myself. I felt very empowered by the ability to be able to teach and everything like that, but very disempowered in the sense that I wanted my life to move on, and for some reason I felt stuck, like someone was holding me there, or that I couldn't actually propel myself into what it is that I wanted to do. So for me, that moment of, just that moment of, well, what are you going to do now, is what really kicked it off for me. And ever since that silence fast, the stuff I saw during that silence fast, there's no turning back from that. There's absolutely no turning back from that. So I strongly encourage, even at the very onset of me talking about this, anyone who has never done a silence fast to do one, even if it's only for 24 hours, even if you think your boss is going to think you're ridiculous, even if you think that no one will let you have silence, even if you have children, even if you have, other circumstances that are going on. So what happened during my silence fast? Well, the first thing I decided, like I said, other than deciding to have a normal day, not stay at home, because anyone can be silent at home, but the challenge is to be out in the world the way that you normally are, just without talking. And I was very well aware that my other senses would have to pick up the slack in terms of communication. A lot of people think about communication as just being verbal or just being written, but what happens to all of those other forms of communication? Communication when you are using your body language, when you are using your facial expressions, when you are using energy, when you're feeling something, you can't say it. What does that energy do? Does it come up and boil up and radiate out? Does it dissipate? What does your energy do when you cannot use your mouth to say what it is that you want to say? So my first silence fast, I had a piece of paper in my purse that I had to start when I went into work because we had a conference that first day. And I had to write on this piece of paper, I am in silence. You can feel free to talk to me. I am communicating with you. I'm just not speaking. And that piece of paper carried me through the first half of my day because I wasn't sure how to respond to people wanting to talk to me. So I felt that there had to be some type of signal to give them to say, we can talk, but the conversation will definitely have to be a a nonverbal conversation on my side. So for me, it was like, when is it necessary to speak? When might I want to be quiet? And when is the absolute moment that I can't decide that being silent is proper? Which sounds crazy, actually, now in retrospect, because I really know that I did not have to say anything the entire day. I did not have to say anything. And people will try and coax you to talk, and no, you can't do that. You absolutely have to take your stance and, just go into that silence full out, And for me, that was one of the hardest parts, because I really felt like I didn't really want to be silent, that I was doing it for some benefit that I knew nothing about yet. So if I'm doing it for this benefit, I hope that I get out of it what I assume I would get out of it. So for me, that was the first step. I listened. And in listening, I heard so much that I wouldn't have normally heard. It was really amazing how much I heard in just that type of listening. The other piece of it that was super amazing to me was that I would have a question. And this is when you really realize when people say, if you have a question, ask it, because the chances are that there's someone else in the room who has the same question. Well, that's exactly what I experienced, was that there were several people with the same question. And so I didn't have to ask. It was empowering to have a meeting at work and be quiet, because that's not something I'm used to being, and nor is it something that your employer would be used to you being. They usually would want some type of feedback, or they would want some type of acknowledgement. But my acknowledgement is that I was there and that I was quiet and I was listening. And listening is a form of acknowledgement. And you don't realize how active listening is until you're in a situation where you're not talking. When I got to the point of recognizing and realizing, what was going on, I do remember people asking me if I was okay. And it's almost as if they wanted to acknowledge that something was wrong. Because who would choose to be silent? Well, strangely enough, at work. But it was great. It was absolutely phenomenal. So I left work. And when I left work, I went to a mall. And in this mall, I went to go purchase tea from Tivana. That was the most hilarious crap I've ever done in my life. To go for my first visit to Tivana and go purchase not only a tea maker, but about 7 or 8 different kinds of teas and the sugar to go with it. I bought rock sugar and everything. How did I do that? Well, I let the salesperson be an intuitive for the day. She had to be an even stronger salesperson, because she had to be able to offer anything that I didn't understand. I also got to the point where I discovered that I might not want to talk again. Yeah, right after I had a silence fast, I said, I don't know if I'm going to want to talk again, because I actually extended the 1 day into 2 days. I did not think I would do that, but I did. I extended to 2 days. And it's rough, because when you first wake up, you forget you're on a silence fast and that no one else knows it but you. So what you realize is that all the people who don't really know how to be around you when you're not talking, you start realizing you might be entertainment for people, that, they don't really think of you as a person who has feelings, ideas, emotions, and needs, that sort of loneliness as well, to just be peaceful and quiet. You realize how much drama is around you when you're silent, when you can't respond to it or say anything about it. You just see the true motives of people and see their, reactions. Also, when you're silent, one thing I discovered is that I really enjoyed having a ritual. Yes, a ritual. And whether that ritual was wake up every day and go do certain things to quiet your mind so that you don't have all these thoughts going on while you're silent, or whether that ritual was just the idea of being silent in and of itself, I thoroughly enjoyed having a ritual, and it's why I continue the ritual in my regular life. But at the time, it was just interesting to feel like, I'm already going in. I actually want to go in a little bit further and experience, what some of this goodness feels like, and how I can further serve myself with things like this, with just listening to the thoughts I'm having, and, have an internal conversation with myself, just observing what's going on inside. Some people already practice this unofficially. It's called "Don't talk to me until noon." I don't like to talk, first thing in the morning, or I'm not a night person. I know I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently. We were talking about, different people's living patterns, and how there are some people that wake up, and as soon as they wake up, they're on 10 and they just start talking. And, oh, good morning, how are you? And it's such a beautiful day, and the sky and the clouds and the whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. Would you like some tea? They just start their morning going right into, this dialogue. You know, one of my yoga gurus told me, never wake up and get right on Facebook. Never wake up and get right on Facebook. Facebook is essentially a stream of other people's field of consciousness. So if you wake up and the first thing you do is go tap into someone else's stream via your news feed, via posts, looking at someone's wall, or whatever, you're going right into someone else's stream of consciousness. So as soon as you wake up in the most pure, innocent, clean state that you can, you go right into listening to what someone else has to say and picking up their energy, their attitudes, and all of that. And that was his biggest warning, was to not get on Facebook or Twitter first thing in the morning, to actually have a ritual and have some time to yourself in quiet, in peace, in solitude, without music, without phone calls, without social media, without the internet. One of the times I felt I needed the biggest silence fast. And I love New York, specifically Brooklyn. Shout out to BK and everyone who is from, lives in, or has traveled through BK. But I felt such a psychic drain going into Manhattan. This is when I was modeling. I went to 43 modeling agencies in a week, if I am not mistaken. Ridiculous amount of agencies. Maybe it was 23. 43 sounds extreme, but even 23 is ridiculous. But whatever it was a big number of agencies I went to. There were a lot of people I met. I hung out in Union Square, talked to some folks. That made me feel a little more at home. But truth be told, walking through Manhattan, especially on my first trip to New York, was the most psychic drain I've ever been through in my life. It's like I could feel the war between agendas everywhere I walked, everywhere I went. Just having that urge to just go. You're highly charged. A friend of mine and I always talk about getting that shot right in your veins. New York City, let's go. Sometimes you need that in your life to get you hyped up. Well, when I was in New York City, I needed silence to get me back to myself. And I actually found some of that silence in Brooklyn. I was visiting one of my great friends and she lived in Fort Greene. I really found that peaceful lull of not having to talk to anybody, but if I wanted to just cut into it, there were not only a ton of people to talk to, but interesting, amazing people to talk to. And one of my favorite things, something that put me in silence for a while, I was writing for days after this trip to New York, is when I met this homeless man named Hugh. And Hugh was in Union Square. Hugh was the business. I love me some Hugh. And Hugh was a brother, walked up to me, said, "How you doing, beautiful lady? My name is Hugh and I'm an Aries." And, I fell out because, the Mac don't stop. It's not based on, what you got and what you can provide. It's based on who you are and who you've been. So Hugh was macking. And Mac to me literally all day. He had my attention for about, I think, 8.5 hours one day. And I spent this time with Hugh, and Hugh and I hung out in Union Square. Hugh, was telling me about people that come through New York and talking to me about, my modeling career. And Hugh made money playing chess. He would kick your ass in chess. And that's how Hugh made his money. He has such character, such moral character. I've met people with, very little that are not homeless, and I've met people with a whole lot, and they don't have the character that man had. And I didn't even see him as homeless, other than the fact that his beard and mustache and everything were very yellowish because they were white, and they, of course they were yellowish from not being able to, get at the resources that would help him restore the natural color of his, graying beard. But he was just so amazing to me. And what I really learned from him is that you got to just try it all. I mean, this man pulled out someone's number in LA. He pulled out a business card and said, you need to call this person. Maybe they can be your agent. And he also bought me lunch. I was low on dough this day, and he bought me lunch. And I said, dang, the homeless man's hustle is stronger than mine. Is something really going on in the world? And it said, nope, he has to. And that's his motivation. He has to. He has to do this. And he was a very much decided homeless person. There were options, there were places he could go. He didn't want to go to any of them. He didn't find the necessity in going to any of those places to live. He felt he was living the life he wanted to live and had his freedom right there on the streets and interacting with the people and meeting with the people. And everybody knew him. He taught me how to play chess. I learned a little bit. Can't remember none of it now. Still don't know any of it. And I watched him, what I thought was about to be him losing a match. And I know he was like, girl, you don't even know who I am. And he did not lose. He won every single match the 8 hours I was there. He started calling me his good luck charm. And I had a great time with him. And it's strange because I really wanted to stay connected to him. And that's the kind of person I am. It's like when someone is valuable in the sense of who they are and how they move in the world, you would think, someone who is living her dreams wouldn't have a whole lot in common with a homeless man. But I'll tell you, you would think wrong if that's your thought. And there was a whole lot for us to talk about, discuss, and just politics. It was a beautiful, beautiful encounter. And if I ever saw him again, not sure if he would remember me or not, but I would sit and talk to him. And just like, as if we had never met, I would go right back into it. So I had such a deep reflection, such a deep meditation after that trip about Manhattan and some of the things I experienced on Park Avenue. And just remembering going to this one agency in particular, and there was this short young lady. She was about 5'2". That's why I say short. She was really petite. She had acne, big, thick, red, raised clusters of acne, like craters, all over her skin. And I even think she was partially cockeyed. I do. I can't remember fully, but I think she was partially cockeyed. And her hair, had cowlicks, and it was just flat and just, kind of lame. It didn't have any life to it. And here she is in this agency with, 30-something other girls on this call on one day in the middle of the afternoon. And the agent came out and started bragging about how this agency was world renowned. And if you are with this agency, you are with the best. And, all these things. She built it up, built it up, built it up. We had all heard of it. That's why we were there. But she built it up so high. And then one by one, they looked at everyone's portfolio, looked at each young lady, and made an assessment. And the one thing that made me really mad about New York is that I had a banging portfolio. And the two things that everyone said to me is either I was too muscular, or they said they just didn't need my look right now, which we all know what that means. So on the flip side, without thinking about what that might mean, I thought, oh, well, they'll be telling all the other girls the same thing that they want to get rid of. And that wasn't the case. This girl in particular, the agent walked up to her and bent down to her on her level. And she said, what made you think you could be a model? What made you come in here today and think that you could be a model? Can you answer that for me? Because what I'm looking at is a little girl who is not a model. And I don't know why you think you're a model, but you're not a model. You are short. You don't have the skin or the look or anything. What brought you in here today? Who told you to come here? And the girl just looked mortified. She said this in front of everybody. All these tall, industry standard statuesque women. And she's like, first of all, you're not a model. She said, I'm not even going to continue this call until you leave, okay? She said, I'm going to ask you to leave. There's the door, and I need you to just walk right out of it, okay? And the girl is streaming, crying, like not hyperventilating, just the reality just hit her like, I'm not good enough. And everything in me was like, oh my God, like I could still cry about it now. Like I really wanted to chase her down and be like, are you okay? And I remember feeling that moment of like, it's not always your job to validate for other people what that experience or context means. Think about, what is the message that she needed to get from that? And I don't think it was the message the woman intended. I don't think the message was for her to get, you aren't good enough. But I think that's the message she got at that moment. And I silently like prayed for her well-being, sent her a lot of light. Like, I hope she doesn't jump off a cliff and kill herself, because that's what she looked like. And she ran out of there, like ran out of that place. And, the agent, just kind of put her hands on her hips, and she was like, okay, and let that be a lesson to everyone. Everyone's not cut out for this business. Some of you in here are not cut out for this business. So you are very lucky if you get picked. And that was that moment on Park Avenue where I was like, later for this. I'm done. I don't care. I'm done. I don't want to be a part of that world. I don't want to represent that. I definitely don't want to be here. And she looked me up and down, and I'm towering over her. And, just statuesque and tall, and asked me to, give her my portfolio. She's flipping through the portfolio and looking me up and down and checking me out and staring at me, looked at me over her glasses once, and she's doing all of this. And then she said, okay, thank you. And she handed me the portfolio. And I just looked at her like, but she didn't have anything to say. She didn't have any negative feedback. Did she have any positive feedback? The sister that was right in front of me, she said, oh, you're a little heavy for what we're looking for. I handed her back the portfolio. But she didn't say anything to me. And that happened almost all week. But nonetheless, I did the rounds. I did my work. I came, I saw, I left. And when I left, that's when I fell into silence. Like, I'm done. Like, and I know I say that a lot, but that was the only feeling I could have about that experience, was like, wow, this is just really extra. For what that story is worth, if you've ever been through any type of draining experience, or any type of experience where you begin to lose yourself or lose sight of why you're doing something, do go into a meditation. Do go into silence. Do find the value of what it is that you do. Had I still, had I not been modeling for like, I don't know how long, and I still decided that that's what I wanted to do, and it had value, and I wanted to do this for another 5 or 6 years, I wouldn't have cared what any of those people had to say. But it was the moment that I knew I had a higher calling than walking on a runway. At the same time, I still carried out my calling in, different ways. I came back to Chicago and, was modeling my behind off here, had an agent here, there were different things going on at the time. So it wasn't totally, this dismissal of modeling. It was just the dream that I had of, going to New York and making it, just totally lost its luster. That's all I can really say about that. It was cold, and it really lost its luster. So, and yeah, I'm not going to get all into my modeling career, but that was a highlight for me that let me know there has to be something else. And I guess I'm here today because I realized that there was something else, and that I wasn't being lied to by my intuition, that there was plenty other things that I could do with my time, talent, abilities that would be more valuable to people than cutting people down and telling them who they are and who they are not, or being cut down, or even experiencing the wickedness. But I could not carry on in that way. And I'm quite grateful for that recognition. So I say all of that to say, silence is a meditation, it's a gift, and it's also something that you control and is accessible to you at any time that you want it. Look around you, look at your surroundings, notice what life is speaking to you. Find yourself in a space where you can totally participate in that which invigorates you, drives you, and find no excuses for what it is that you want to do. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you, step into silence, find out what's in it for you, and hold that space of whatever it is that you find out. Journaling after silence. Some people like to do it during silence. I like to do it more after, because I wanted to really be present and experience everything that there was for me while I was being silent. So after was a better strategy for me. But whatever it is that you want to do, and however you think that would be best suited, I encourage it. And that is all. And I am really hungry. I am really hungry and ready to enjoy this. So I'm going to let you all go. I hope you enjoyed day 6. I thought it was important to talk to people about the importance of silence. And even if it's not an official practice, just being around people and wanting to build with people who can be silent. It is definitely a work in progress. And I encourage you all to share your stories. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you've taken a silence fast, what happened to you during the fast. Just connect with everyone and let everyone know your story. This is what this whole platform is about. I'm telling you mine, tell us yours. Give little bits and pieces, and let's get on our way, okay? Thank you all so much for listening. Love you. Peace. Namaste. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.